Welcome to another episode of Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Fullick, and as always, we like to talk about things related to business continuity, wellness, COVID, emergency management, crisis management, anything that helps you, your organization, or your community prepare for, respond to, and overcome adverse situations. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please feel free. You can find me on LinkedIn. I am the only Alex Fullick there, so I'm really easy to find, and I do respond to everything I get. Now, today is going to be an interesting topic because really I know nothing about it, even though I've seen news articles and magazine articles and reports online. So talk about taking someone out of their comfort zone. I'll be miles out of it on this one. But hopefully today's guest is going to help clear some things up for us. And I'd like to welcome back if the last episode was number 4, this has got to be number 5. The 5th appearance, Luke Bird. Luke, welcome back.
Do I get like a badge when I get to a certain number or something? You have to start developing, or mug. I could really use like a mug, like a prepared for the unexpected mug. You're coming across to London in November, are you? So
yeah, I will be there.
I need a badge or a mug or like a tea towel or something. I'll take it. I'll take whatever I can get.
Yeah. I think after 10 episodes, there's a free toaster or something.
What does James get? He's
got a whole new kitchen now.
White goods, courtesy of Alex. Brilliant.
So,
this is good. Thanks for it.
Oh yeah. Well, it's always a pleasure to have you back and chat. And today is going to be an interesting topic because, as I said, I don't know much about this at all. And we're talking about cryptocurrency and blockchain. So I got to hand it over to you. What the heck is this? And as a business continuity person, why do I need to worry about it?
Right. So a bit of backstory very quickly.
Yeah.
First of all, let's proceed the whole thing with #NoExpert. So 2 non-experts talking about, how dangerous could this be, right? Nearly 10 years ago now, I was dealing with an incident about I was dealing with a business continuity incident, and it related to a potential cyber attack, and it was about how I would intercept and reissue customer passwords, and having never dealt with anything in technology before, I had to try and figure out, and that's really provoked a whole decade of edge case learning about technologies that my business may or may not use, and the possible risks and things that could go wrong. I'm poking the bear a little bit and seeing what makes it angry and switches it off. And this is just another one of them. Back in 2014, I was delivering the 22301 certification for an international organization, and it's the first time I'd done it on my own, and I'd looked at it, and one of the first things it says at the very beginning, as a standard for those that I'm sure everyone knows this already, is about understanding the organization. It's like step 1, and I took that on face value. How big is the organization? Where is it located? Who it does business with generally. But fast forward 10 years, I don't think I really appreciated, only up until recently, the commercial nuances and the dependencies that make a business tick. I now understand better the spirit of what that section was trying to get me to do. And I don't think I had that. And I think that probably comes with age and experience and general exposure. But you need to be able to develop the best possible strategies for recovering from a major business disruption. You really do need to have a decent understanding of the organization and the environment it operates within. And you can't get away from the fact that technology has transformed massively in the last decade or beyond. Mm-hmm. And I believe that continuity and resilience practitioners in section 1 of, I think it's section 1 of the ISO, understanding your organization, that is a key part before you go ahead with doing anything else. And this needs to be flavored into that. And so I naturally believe that continuity resilience practitioners should embrace edge case learning with new and emerging technologies. I mean, I'm a little late to the party, as everyone else is, because blockchain and cryptocurrency, they're not new technologies. But what is happening is the wider businesses now are starting to embark on their use cases inside and outside of financial services. And that will have a knock-on effect to how your organization is run. And things like this are worth having an ankle-deep understanding about, because they will, sooner or later, or they may or may not, become part of the conversation. And if you've already looked at it, and it's part of the journey, you save yourself a lot of aggro and stress and anxiety for feeling like the dumbest person in the room. And that's why I think it's important. But to your question, I don't want to go into the real nitty-gritty of what each of them is, but I'll give you a bit of I wrote an article in Continuity Central, which gives like a structured brain dump and points to really good, sort of easy to understand information and things that you can consume, like podcasts and YouTube videos, that just give you a really all the level of detail you really need to put it into the context of what you do for a living. But really, I suppose cryptocurrency is everywhere, isn't it? I mean, you might have family members that are investing in it. I mean, it's widely publicized, the crash at the moment. But I mean, before that, I've had friends that I've known that have had colleagues that have recently retired because they've made so much money off it independently. So there are people that are trading in it. There are people that are working in organizations and startups that are utilizing cryptocurrency. But the one thing that blew my mind is when I started to look at it, because I was having a conversation recently about it, and I thought, this feels like something I need to know about a bit more, because the way the businesses will transact with one another and the exchange of value for goods and services, this might become the new gold. And so the new base currency, or we just don't know. So it's worth having a decent understanding around it. But put it this way, up until recently, I think I've just got a note here that the European Central Bank reported that the crypto market is now larger than the subprime mortgage market was pre-crash. There's $1.3 trillion US dollars. It's just huge. You can't ignore that level of a market, because either directly or indirectly, you will become involved within some sort of cryptocurrency arrangement. The way things are going, massive. And that's why I think it's worth paying attention to. And there's a number of risks that you kind of need to think about as well, but I'll talk about them in a second. But just to talk on the cryptocurrency first. So that basically, that's been around for wow, what was I thinking? I think it was about. It was attributed to a pseudonym of a person called I think it's Hashimoto. Nakamoto, Satoshi Nakamoto, back in 2009 for the development of Bitcoin. And it was, since then, it's just exploded into the market that I've just described. So without getting into the rabbit holes of the mechanics of cryptocurrency, because there's podcasts and books and you can read it. There's a YouTuber called Crypto Casey who gives a sort of a high level explanation of what cryptocurrency is and how it relates to the global financial market now. But basically, it's a digital asset. It's kind of like gold, as I said, and it's perceived as a store of value. And like everything else, it's subject to the laws of supply and demand. So it's the way a lot of businesses are trading value now, and they're doing it on various platforms using various coins. And it's we could go on for hours to try and talk about the technology behind it and what it actually means. But yeah, I'll leave cryptocurrency at that for just now. and then I'll talk about blockchain, because that's quite interesting because it's outside of financial services, I believe, as well. Blockchain is much easier to explain for me because blockchain is predominantly used within cryptocurrency, at least, as a decentralized network of databases that anyone can be a part of anywhere. So at the moment, the financial services, for example, that relies on central infrastructure to maintain the market.
Mhm.
But blockchain enables a distributed, decentralized network of databases that are all connected and all updated in unison. That means that any change to the data that's stored on there can be updated and verified by everyone else. So using cryptocurrency as an example, say I have a crypto wallet and you have a crypto wallet, and I want to send you some Bitcoin for something. And I say, I'm going to give you 2 Bitcoin for whatever you've just done for me, for bringing me on your show and indulging me. The blockchain technology, there has to be a majority of those databases that verify that transaction, and you have to have this sort of what they call this consensus algorithm, where there's a suitable number of the databases say, yep, that transaction happened, add it to the ledger, and once the ledger becomes full, it creates another block, and that's where the blockchain explanation comes from. Mm-hmm. And so the real thing here, and this is the biggest learning for me about it, was I thought Bitcoin mining was like mining specifically for Bitcoin, but in this context, what Bitcoin mining is the computational power required to generate a consensus to validate the transaction, and by that you get payment in Bitcoin for making that transaction. And it takes a lot of computational power and energy to do that, but you then receive a Bitcoin payment as a result, kind of like a transaction fee, I suppose, because you have validated that transaction, and that's how it works in the financial services. But also, blockchain has many use cases outside of finance. I heard one of the most interesting ones I heard recently was UNESCO were using it for vulnerable persons, so that people could be identified in different locations. So they have this distributed network of databases, decentralized, that they'll carry a register of vulnerable people that can be updated, so to avoid people trafficking for vulnerable persons. And I think that's fascinating. What else is there? Land registry. There's a case studies for land registry. There's where obviously changing of deeds and whatnot, they could be potentially used in that environment. Lesser economically developed countries could use it in that regard as well. So there's the blockchain. Cryptocurrency's success is predicated on the use of blockchain technology, and I didn't realize that at all, because the transactions have to be validated, and cryptocurrency is a digital form of asset and value which is exchanged for goods and services. And it's huge. Like I say, the market, 1.3 trillion, that's insane. And obviously that was pre-crash, so it won't be short of its ups and downs either. But that's what in my sort of research and understanding, that's how I've got to it so far. I mean, what do you think about that, Alex? Is that sort of has any of that ever landed in your space before?
No, none of it has. Like I said, the whole thing is not on my radar. It's not even a topic that people I work with have brought up. But
do you think that? Do you think with that type of market that I've just described on that value, do you think it's likely that that type of technology and approach will start to be utilized more widely in businesses as they exchange goods and services?
The way you explained it, yes.
That's where my head was at.
And I can see that being utilized a lot more. But there's got to be some risks with that, right?
Yeah.
as either a risk professional, resilience professional, continuity professional, whatever, there's got to be some risk associated with that. And if it's really turning the traditional way of technology on its head, how do I deal with that? What are the things I need to consider then? Because it's really it really challenges the traditional way of thinking and doing.
Yeah, I think so my headspace, I've been doing a lot more work in risk management recently than I did in previous years, and I immediately put my risk hat on to it and thought, well, how could we, because one of the things that we deal with managing major incidents in business continuity resilience consultants and practitioners, they often have to deal with things like reputational damage. Like something bad happens, customers impacted, press are involved. That's usually in and around. If it's a big thing, media does get involved and you can get scrutinized. So it's always factored into part of a crisis manager, a business continuity manager's response strategies, I believe. And if your organization is becoming involved in this space, I would urge you, as I've urged myself, because it's an emerging domain anyway, but climate risk is surprisingly, you wouldn't think immediately of this technology presenting a climate risk, but the level of energy required to facilitate this form of technology is unprecedented. Bitcoin alone, I mean, I read, but I haven't validated this, because on other interviews of people you've used other references, but I read in a fairly credible, it's the Columbia Climate School, so a fairly credible a provider of information. They say that Bitcoin, they used more energy last year than the whole of Argentina. In terms of electricity, that level of power consumption for one of the cryptocurrencies is absolutely bonkers. And if you were to do business in that space and you were to respond, not only is there reputational damage, because there'll be climate people that are passionate and acting to support the climate and the wider environment, but also when you're dealing with that level of mass technology and power, I mean, that just smells like an explosion waiting to happen. There's something's going to go tragically wrong when you're dealing with that level of stuff, and that will have either a direct or indirect impact on your business. And it's going to be something, particularly being decentralized, you can't control, unless you set up your blockchain. You can have a private blockchain environment, and it can be used the public one, which is obviously global in its nature. It's out of your control. So the climate risk does present a business disruption risk, and also the reputational damage as well that comes with it. I don't know if organizations.
That's got to be a challenge, because so many organizations want to be socially responsible and
yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Address climate change and many other things. But if you're kind of using a technology that is using more energy than the entire country of Argentina does, then are you not going against some of your values and some of the things you're promoting on one side, even if that one side has 1.3 trillion dollars, I think you said it was, in value? That's going to be a challenge.
The other thing that's sort of the main reason that triggered me to write about it and think about it was I started to notice that there was some publications from European and UK regulators about the use of cryptocurrency. And now they did do this a few years ago. They wrote out the Bank of England fired out the PRA is the regulator. They fired out a 2018 paper. It's like a 2-pager saying, "Hey banks, and financial services guys in scope, we're aware that this is a possibility that you might be exploring this. We don't actively support this, and anything that you do needs to make sure that you factor in the appropriate risk management, both financial and non-financial. And that was fine. It was a boilerplate statement, and that was about 2018. That was 2 pages to all CEOs of every bank in the land in UK that was in scope. And then in 22, so like literally this year, there was the same regulator sent out an 86-page document on cryptocurrency. That's a real game changer in itself, because they've realised their mass involvement. And then on top of that, I don't know, there's the market in crypto assets European regulation. I apologise that most of my studies relate to where I live and where I'm from, but I highly suspect they won't be on their own. But the MICA is the regulation that's going to be coming live in the next year or two, which is the management of sort of the markets in crypto assets and how they're governed, and crypto bonds, trading cryptocurrencies. There's a massive European Parliament focus, and there's a huge, clearly, like I said, from 2 pages to 86 pages. That's a big shift in regulatory focus. So for those working in financial services that aren't on this, and for those that have a dependency on regulation, if you've got a relationship with a financial service, you probably need to keep one eye on the development of those regs, because they're now occurring faster than they've ever occurred before. And also, it's interesting to say on the UK one, in spite of the 86 pages, as I keep quoting, they still say that they don't fully support it. Like they don't back it as an asset class. And I know Basel will be doing their things as well. So there's a lot of regulatory focus as well. So that's climate risk, the business disruption, reputational damage, and then you've got your regulatory scrutiny about what you're doing in that space from the risk point of view. And then finally, the data risk, sharing of data. There's a lot of data protection rules already in place. And if you're operating in a decentralized way, if your architecture is decentralized and you don't fundamentally own or can take back the right to be forgotten in the GDPR, is not possible in that space, because you can't get everybody to do that. So yeah, lots of things to think about. There isn't a fat lot of mention in that Dear CEO letter about operational resilience. It's more about operational risk. But I do think it's worth knowing, because business continuity, crisis manager, etc., they are going to need to be able to respond to incidents relating to fraud and data and technology collapse that may now be out of their control on products and services you've not previously had before that are now heavily regulated. That picture there, that's messy. So the aim of the game was to say, look, you don't need to be a whiz kid in technology. You don't even need to be able to explain very well, as I've probably butchered the explanation myself, to get you thinking about where's my organization doing business? Is it planning to move into that space? Are we likely to be one of the front runners? Are we? How might we use blockchain technology, or how might we trade value in crypto? Like, are you going to develop crypto bonds or crypto wallets or whatever? Tech startups probably in that space, but blockchain, there's a use cases galore for that, where organizations may want to start using it. So how you manage your disruptions to that, it might be a good emerging risk scenario for continuity practitioners to use. You say, okay, we've embarked on blockchain. We now have this set of detail. It's fairly static, and we update it regularly. And something's gone wrong with it. You cannot control the changing of the data, or it's just a lot to think about. And I think it's something that can get your head scratching.
I've got one question for you, because I know you have to go in a few minutes. You mentioned the digital aspects here. Is there any relation here to our previous conversation regarding DORA?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's because of the market shift and because of the engagement of banks. that's definitely been a major influence on the Digital Operational Resilience Act. And again, that will trickle through regions and sectors. It may not come as fast as it's perhaps coming to those in financial services, but it really, really will come. So it's always useful I'm a big fan of, I say, edge case learning for continuity resilience practitioners, because I just think it makes us much more effective at our roles. It gives us an added colour. And so if you can try and take 5 minutes out of your day to try and indulge a bit of thinking, a bit of literature, however you consume your growth, then you should probably look at these two things combined, probably.
Yeah, it's like I said, this whole thing was totally new for me, but I'm a little clearer of it, a lot clearer now than I was before. So thank you.
The aim was, Alex, to basically get you and anyone listening with to go, because we're not typically involved in this space. None of us are real technologists. So you kind of go, oh, okay, so what does this mean to me? Well, as a BC practitioner, you've got to understand your environment, and this is happening. This transformation is happening sooner or later. You kind of need to just have a bit of you can't crystal ball what your business is going to do, but there will be changes for sure.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Cool.
We've come to the end of the show because Luke, I know you have to go.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you once again for sharing your thoughts and expertise. As hashtag what was it, not expert?
No expert.
So I'll say hashtag expertise or air quotes expertise with us. You clear things up for me, so you at least help somebody understand things a little bit better. So I really appreciate it. Thanks again for joining us.
No, you're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm glad that someone could understand my jabbering along. But either that or you're being too kind. Thanks again for all of the content that you're providing, Alex. I'm probably one of your most active users. I think I'm constantly on it.
All right, great. Well, I'm happy to hear that. Thank you very much. And so have a great day, and everybody watching and listening, stay prepared, everybody. If you like that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.